Hi, welcome to Suzanne's, a gathering place for heralds of a new way to be, celebrating the beauty of how it would be if we were really nice to one another here on planet Earth, knowing that the universe is but a mutual decision and we can make it a good one. I want to start the show this week by a message from Central. A word of wisdom, a few words of wisdom from a real high source, all of us having these high sources within, if we can but tap them. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Goethe. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Well, 23 weeks ago, we dreamed up this show, and today is a transition day. This is our last show that we will be taping at Group W facilities in Los Angeles. And from now on, we're going to be producing the show ourselves. And we're going to talk about that on the show today. In fact, we're going to give you a little taste of what it's going to be like in weeks to come, because we tried out our new equipment, and most of the show will be on that new equipment today. Now, forgive us our technical difficulties, for we know not what we do. We're just beginning. We don't have all our lights yet. Our sound wasn't working quite right, but I think you'll enjoy the clip that we're going to bring you. You'll enjoy the content of it anyway, and we get a chance to see how the equipment works, because next week, the next show you'll see, in case you catch a rerun, but the next new show you'll see will be a brand new show. We're picking up on this clip. The new show, by the way, will be on at a regular time also in Los Angeles, 10 o'clock Sunday nights. So we invite you to join us every week. We're excited that we can now, easily create a following, and that you can find us more readily. The clip that we're going to bring you, we pick up talking about what we were talking about last week on the show. We were talking about how big do you dare to be? Do you dare to be big enough to really create heaven on earth, for all of us to be really divine creatures having a wonderful time together? And the people involved are the people I live with, my Garden of Eden. Greg Houston, Zane Rothschild, and myself. Yay, family. That's my most exciting kind of component of my life. And I want to take it away now to our house, actually, where we're having a discussion about things to come.
Yes. Welcome back to Suzanne's. As I was saying, we were talking about summarizing all of the shows and what we've learned and how far we've gotten so far. And we've learned a lot. We've lived a lot. And a question that came to my mind was, resist the temptation that we're not false prophets.
No, that we are false prophets.
That we are false prophets. Know that we're not false prophets. And then, how? Mm-hmm. How do you know? What are the ways you can see whether you're telling the truth or not, or some unconscious prejudice or influences is disturbing the truth? Well, how do you know those things?
Well, is that the beginning question, or do you first want to establish the idea that once you understand the essence, once you move from blindness to sight, you know something. And, well, maybe it's because it's divinity that you also don't want to be arrogant about it. You don't want to be wrong. So what we tend to do, us good-hearted souls, is humble ourselves out of existence, so that, heaven forbid, we should be arrogant, so we become invisible.
Yes.
And is that it? Is that what's going on? Because it's a subtle little game that goes on. We were talking on the show last week about how big do you dare to be, that once you get the idea that this is divinity within you, it has no limits. It belongs in some absolute sense. Are you a quarter God, or are you all God? And if you're all God, radiate. But yet, how few people are doing that. And when they do, when anybody claims that space, people go, nada, nada, nada,
How arrogant you are,
yeah.
Or who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Or why should you? And what happens is really the sensitive, gentle, vulnerable, good-hearted people move back, and they don't assume, and they don't want to tell anyone else how to live. And they say, I'll try to demonstrate and I'll try to live my life. But it's a very small space. Some of the most incredibly ethical, high, what would you say, with people with impeccable character who I've known were so modest that, as you say, they almost influenced no one. Maybe 5 people.
Well, maybe not with their words, but I'm sure they were influencing everyone that they came in contact with their actions.
I'm sure that's true too, because the truth has a way about it that really, you know, whether you trust it in yourself or not, it has such a beauty that that it is the goods. You know, it is the good stuff. I, on the other hand, I haven't been recessive. I have been called a troublemaker all my life. Tactless was the childhood, my label as a child. And I never really quite understood. I kept interfering with things, and because I knew that they were wrong, and I was accused of being domineering in some way, but I was just trying to speak for the good, you know. I mean, it's a funny little position, you know. It's a funny little game that goes on.
Yes.
I was thinking of that girl who visited us yesterday, and in attempting to speak honestly to her, she said that I was being cruel to her. Oh, where do we go with that, you know?
Right. Well, that's part of what we've been talking about on the show also the past few weeks. Is there a way to communicate with someone else so that they can receive optimally? And what goes wrong when the position or the rightness or wrongness suddenly starts to become more important than the people who are in front of you? That the argument, and whether whoever's right or wrong doesn't matter, that suddenly you're at war and you can't even stay in the same room with the person. What goes wrong when that mechanism takes place? Why isn't it all just so much, oh, do you believe that? I believe this. Oh, how great. Well, maybe teach me, show me something.
You know why not? Because I think I'm going to say this backwards, but in a way, you can hang around with people with whom you have a pact. We've talked about this before, like we've been discovering this among ourselves. If you're with people who understand the nature of the game, then you have permission all the time to be in the game. And if you're not, you're dealing with people's fears, people's mistrust, people's suspicions, people's judgments. You know, you're like in 2 different universes trying to harmonize, and they just don't blend. Yes?
I notice among us that also there's, I heard in that same discussion last night, you were accused of being in control as a generic category. And one of the things we actually are is very receiving of other people's communication. And because and I think the show has demonstrated that we say, deliver all messages and also receive. Be there, be interested. What's going on with you? What's important? What message do you have to tell all of us that's going to lead us to higher consciousness, to a better world?
I have become willing myself in this time that the show has existed and the time that this family of ours has existed to become much more adamant about holding my space, holding the knowing. And that when someone like last night, who was causing nothing but war, nothing but conflict, when I say to her, that's out of line, I've become very peaceful with myself, so that when she calls me controlling, I know that all I'm doing is inviting the universe that we need to be in, you know, and if I can't speak it, it will never happen. And, you know, I used to say a little funny thing about myself. I used to say that, I used to think actually that the game of life consisted in avoiding being shot at, because tactless people get shot at a lot, you know, and it's never tremendously comfortable. So I used to say this, the game of life consists of avoiding being shot at. But then as I moved along, I made other discoveries, and I discovered, no. The game of life consists of, I think I actually had myself placed on the end of a limb, so it was even more dangerous to get shot at. You fell down from a high place, you know. So there I am on the end of the limb, risking. And the game of life, now I come to understand, consists of whatever happens, let's say you're shot at, not falling down. And then I made some funny discoveries after that. If you don't fall down when you're shot at, and, you know, and you are a good person, eventually people start to applaud. And then I made another discovery. If you stand there longer enough, they start to worship. You got to be a little nervous about that one, but that's the truth. What happens to people who really have something to say is that they have to go through almost these tests, it seems to me, these trials, which is the product of our skeptical, competitive, cruel, culture that we've created.
I would describe that as going through the growth cycle of becoming a real individual, a person that cultivates their own ideas or concepts or beliefs to such a point where they accept themselves for who they are, and they begin to trust what comes through them is their channel to that connection, to outside,
Beautiful.
the knowledge that comes through. And they have to trust that they're receiving it at least well enough to see what's coming through.
Beautiful.
themselves.
That's absolutely the goods. Absolutely the goods. To move to a place of that kind of trust, because once you get the little hint that this is God, well, let it be. Let it be. You've got to start with accepting yourself. I know that's one of the keys, to the entire game that we're in.
I'd like to point out one of the central threads that I see running through the show, and I think I feel really good about it, and that is that we talk about drawing upon each person's sense of knowing. We're not talking about the knowing coming from the person or the teacher. We're talking about knowing, and we encourage, I feel, through the Cosmic Fuel Pump, each person to pay attention to what's coming through them. And then once they get in touch with that, begin sharing it with other people, because what's coming through them may really be of help and interest to someone else in developing their sense of knowing. Yeah. So we reach a point where we're dialoguing, not just conversation, but we are really sharing what is important for each of us to share.
You were saying earlier when we were talking that the function of a guru is what? Remember? To point out.
Oh, indeed, to point out the existence of the game, but the game itself is us opening to one another, not listening to anybody, because that's just getting information. But being this space is letting it flow between us. And I on the show last week, I was talking about teachers of God as described in the Course in Miracles, and I thought about what I talked about last week, this week, and I saw even deeper into it, where it says that a teacher of God is anyone who at any time has made a deliberate choice not to put his or her interests above someone else's, to enter into that space of absolute equity, equality, caring, and that space is God. That before that, you're just separation. You're this body, but once you open to one other, you become a teacher of God. Now, I've been really thinking about that all week, thinking we've got to do this with one another. I talk about some danger that we felt about following, and I start to understand better and better what I'm talking about, which is my own God voice talking more clearly to me. But I was just seeing this week how urgent it is, how, that's not the right word, inescapable it is, how it just is us. It's us being this space. It's not anything else, Anything else is just about it. But the it of it is your interest and my interest as one, Yay!
I like the idea that you pointed on that about following. And it reminds me of the title of a book that is that I'm very fond of, and it's called "If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him." And what that means is that anytime you find a person that seems to know more than you do, and that you're tempted to follow their lead in something, you must catch yourself and remind yourself that only you know what is best for you. It comes through you, and you need to learn to draw from that. Yeah. And I feel that, in knowing you two as well as I do, in knowing myself, anytime that any of us are tempted to see someone else as knowing more than us, it doesn't take very long before the red flags go up. And it just doesn't work. We know that we only trust ourselves ultimately. And that's only, to a certain degree most of the time. We need to process it. We need to, hone it down so that we can accept it ourselves.
We need to own our own knowing.
That's it.
We need to accept our own knowing. We need to accept our own self-acceptance and our own entitlement to be the divine creature that we are, and to know that that's enough. And I would quibble a little with the way you said that, which, somebody can know more than I know, but that doesn't make them more God than I am. Mm-hmm. And following is in itself an act of separation. It's an act of unequality. It's an act of hierarchy. And ultimately, this game is a game of equality. God is everywhere, everyone, right. Everything.
Right. And there's a real knowing also, first, that you have to be responsible for your own life. And I'm reminded of Kafka's parable.
There was an avocado on the roof, This is home, folks.
Are we still on the air? Yeah. I'm reminded of Kafka's parable where this man laid at the gates of heaven until he grew old. I'll shorten the story a lot. It's in the trial. It's called the parable. And finally, he was about to die, and he asked the archangel, the gatekeeper, the first gate, I've been here for all these years, and I saw hundreds of thousands of people going to the gates of heaven, and each time I went forward, I was denied entrance. And with his last breath, the gatekeeper revealed the secret. This wasn't your gate. And the inescapable conclusion is, follow your inner knowing, find your inner knowing, be your authentic self. That's what the show is about. And I want to ask, and maybe this is what the new show, when I say the new show, the new theme of a show that's expanded is an exploration of finding oneself, the authentic self, and what that means. And isn't that what we're talking about too? When you speak out from that place of somewhere in your stomach, low in your stomach, that there's an authenticity to it, because this is all for real. This isn't rehearsed, no scripts, no anything. Yes. This is live.
Yes, right? Yes. The authenticity is a wonderful idea. That's that bigness. And we tend so to, having grown up in a culture of leaders and teachers and duality, starting all of a sudden to look around and say, wow, it's me and you and you. And that's the best,
Right.
And it's not the best over anybody. It's just the best. And everybody can be the best. And that's all there is to be. And knowing that and learning more about that and unfolding to that is all there is to do. Everything, your job, your recreation, your family, everything is secondary to that unfolding of yourself as God or source or the life force. You don't need a religious word, I don't care what the word is much. I care what the essence is.
Right. Let's talk about the new chapter of the Cosmic Fuel Pump and how we see what's coming up.
Okay.
All right. Well, I like the introduction you gave it to it. I feel that our emphasis all along has been on the real, the genuine, the authentic. And my particular interest in coming up is I would like to encourage people to share what they know, the things that they know that has made a difference in their life. And I will be looking to individuals to talk with that will share, for want of a better word, wisdom. What they have that has made a difference. So the role that I see myself playing will be visiting others who either I know personally or I hear about that are living a life of vision and clarity and humbleness and all the qualities that I consider signs that this person has learned something in their life and has something to share with others. And then with the magic of this tremendous technology, the camera, I'm going to sit down and talk with them and then bring it onto the show as short segments, approximately 5 minutes long.
Sounds wonderful.
All right.
Isn't that funny? When we got together and you moved from San Francisco to come here for we knew not quite what, except we knew it was the same destiny. And we talked then, which was almost a year ago, 2/3 of a year ago, about going out and finding heroes. And then somehow, we've been down 20 roads since then, and look where we're back to. We're back to, the original vision.
We didn't quite know we were videotaping them, did we?
No, that was a side idea. We thought, well, we might as well take the half-inch equipment. But the trip didn't materialize. It was meant to be a summer exploration, a trip, a journey in which we would seek out the heroes of our day.
And look what we ended up doing for the summer. We ended up seeking out the heroes in ourselves.
Yes.
You know, we did it. It looked a little different from the way we expected it to be. You want to talk about what you're going to do?
Sure. Well, I have an interest, of course, in Benjamin Franklin and writing a play. Someday you'll all get to hear my play on Franklin, but you'll hear a lot of facts in the meanwhile about he and Jefferson as spiritual masters. And when I say spiritual masters, they were very deep, knowing, authentic, loving, serving, giving, caring human beings who got together with other human beings and were so powerful in the demonstration of their life as their vision that they created this country, the Declaration of Independence, the foundation of a constitution that provides for wonderful government. And I don't care what anyone says about the system of laws. I think the system of laws that we have is wonderful and authentic and beautiful. And when I see the ascent of man, Bronowski's Ascent of Man, from barbarism and feudal states to civilization, the connection between obedience to law, forget higher law, just that we don't run around chopping at each other too much. I'm impressed. And so I'd like to say that maybe we're missing a spiritual element to how the laws are interpreted. And maybe lawyers and judges can have a different image, a different vision, using the same framework to come to a system of justice. So I'd like to explore spirituality, new vision, creation, the law, because I'm a lawyer also, as it exists today, and anything else that comes up about being authentic and truthful and giving and serving and those things.
And all the systems. I hope you're going to do other things besides law and see how, if we kept true to the vision, which somehow our materialism sent us on a fork in the road, if we could bring all those things back to what they might have been, reconceptualize, see again. It's not a huge leap away to get somewhere that we don't know about to make everything work. It's really going back to where it started from and, rethinking it again and tuning it back in.
And giving thanks for the materialism that got us this far, because maybe unless you're an exceptional prophet and born with knowing, maybe you have to have the freedom of this material world before you go on to the investigations of other spiritual.
It is an important question that so many people who are spiritually inclined have, and that is, what is my relationship to the material world, to the society that I live in? How can I make a contribution in a way that supports society, but also it maintains my integrity as a spiritual being? So it sounds like you're going to be touching on those issues, and it sounds wonderful to me. I'm excited.
I wonder what I'm going to be doing.
Well, tell us.
Not to worry.
I think I'm just going to be living, actually, with these incredible, wonderful friends, and documenting our journey. I have come to feel in this last little while that there isn't anything beyond myself that I am seeking, that this is enough, that I am blessed with a life, an understanding, a capacity, friendships that are sufficient. And as those kind of unfold within me, that's all there is to do. That's all there is for anybody to do. It's a simpler trip than the one I thought it was many years ago when I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't know how to be happy. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to go to. And after a lifetime, I come right back to myself and to real gratitude that I have traversed, the path, and that it turns out to be so simple, and that I have an inkling, that I have an understanding, and that I feel able to share it. That I feel like as it becomes clearer to me, I'm able to communicate more clearly to everybody else. And that I can't imagine anything else worth doing. It feels like absolutely the game of games. And here we'll be playing it weekly on television and doing many other things, initially in Los Angeles. After that, who knows where. If you're somewhere wonderful, invite us. We'll come play with you and play these wonderful games of exploration of the universe, which means exploration of ourselves. And And we're going to have a wonderful time along the way. Fun is definitely at the top of the list. It's not frivolous. It's joy. And laughter is the sign of the presence of God, as says one of the current sages around. I concur. This has been an incredible year, only to give way to a more incredible next year. So join us. Take the trip. Tune in every Sunday night at 10 o'clock. And if you're in Los Angeles, and if you're not, consult your local listings to find out when we'll be on. And share with us what you know. Come sit with us on our sofas. Be in touch. This isn't about one-way communication. This isn't about anything didactic, anything instructional. This is about opening to who we are, all of us, who we are being love. And the more the merrier.
Right. And we're non-denominational.
Well, it's the denomination of fun, love, delight, and ecstasy.
But we believe, don't we believe, that essentially all religion and all enlightened men and everyone say the same thing, that come from your heart, be loving, come from an attitude of service.
Mm-hmm. Anyone who's got a glimpse is a glimpse of the same stuff, you know. One of the shames is we've tended to call it by different names and think we were talking about different stuff. But it's such a simple little game. It's
I've heard it said that all the major religions come from the same source. And my sense is the source is through the heart.
And who's that?
And it comes down from above.
Shake on it, Tom.
Or from within.
Shake, folks.
Another important member of our family is on vacation this week, but he's left his words of wisdom behind. So take it away, Maxwell Eden, our producer.
Hi, Suzanne. It's Max, your lovable producer. Hi to all the fans, too. I'd like our audience to know something. That is, specifically, there is no other show like the Cosmic Fuel Pump airing anywhere. That's LA, United States, the world. What we are doing is something really special. And I don't know anyone who's doing this. We're actually scouring the world for inspiration about it. It being everything. It being what works. It being having a good time. It being the good time. That's a pretty big job. And we're the people who are doing it because we've decided to take on that job. We are people who present models also of what works. And personally, I feel really bottomed out in one thing. And that is ultimately what everything is all about is, are you having a good time right now? I mean right now, not after the television show is over or thinking about having a good time, but right now. Really simple, not particularly profound. The Cosmic Fuel Pump is also a unique team. We're a great group with various talents from production to actually being able to communicate this stuff. I amaze myself so many times that we can actually do this. In the weeks to come, the show is going to become more and more exciting, more movement, and more visually impacting. We're going to be on the road. Both Greg and Zane are going to really round out the picture for the Cosmic Fuel Pump. I'll be, of course, on the sidelines, your dependable, trustworthy producer, rooting for everyone. Bye now, have a good time. And everyone out there, have a good time right now. Bye.
Well, what more can I say, except that it's time to open this here restaurant. So folks can come in and talk about the adventures of the soul and talk about our curiosity of finding out what's going on around here. Join us every week as we find out how it is to be a human being, how it is to be God. And join us at 10 o'clock every Sunday night starting February 26th in Los Angeles. It's been a wonderful half a year. Join us for the rest of our lives. Let us know who you are, too, so we can invite you to things that we do outside this television show. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful life. See you next week. Bye.